Hi, my name is Brenda Romero, and I'm the game director of Empire of Sin.
And I'm John Romero, and I'm working on Empire of Sin, and we are very excited to be at RazerCon.
Absolutely. Huge fans of Razer, obviously, that's why we're here. So let me tell you a little bit about Empire of Sin. Obviously, that's what we're here for right now. So Empire of Sin takes place in 1920s Prohibition-era Chicago. And if you're not familiar with Prohibition, it was a time when the U.S. outlawed all alcohol. It was a great time if you were a criminal. It was a fantastic time if you were looking to make lots of money. But it wasn't so great, I guess, if you like to casual drink every now and again. So that's the stage that it's set at. You've got 13 years to become king or queen of Chicago.
Yeah, and Empire of Sin consists of three very important aspects: combat, RPG, and empire management and strategy.
You might know a thing or two about combat.
I think I know a little bit about combat. Let's watch some of it.
All right.
In Empire of Sin, you can go a long way with management, strategy, and diplomacy. But as a boss, you need to get your hands dirty digging the graves of those you pass on your rise to the top. Combat is turn-based and takes place in rounds. Members of your crew have hit points, armor, and action points, of course, which they can use when it's their turn. Assembling your crew with combat in mind is critical. A hitman can take someone out at a distance. A demolitionist's targeted grenade can make meat of your enemies. A doctor's medical skill can save you when you're down and prevent a trip to the hospital, or worse. When a crew member dies, they're gone for good. Each boss has a custom-crafted boss ability used to obliterate or manipulate the opposition. These abilities range from Dino Banyan's Blasphemy, which knocks back targets and shreds their armor with an explosive shotgun slug, to Mabel Riley's Swindler's Shot, which fires a well-aimed bullet that ricochets between marked targets. Each boss ability fits the personality and lore surrounding these larger-than-life bosses. You can even strike fear into your enemies with a number of brutal execution moves. There's no coming back from one of these. Empire of Sin features dozens of period weapons which you can take from your enemies, buy on the black market, or find stashed around Chicago. Weapons range from a standard pair of brass knuckles to submachine guns, sniper rifles, and even the Max Gun 0815, the personal weapon of a gangster known simply as Baby Brute. Weapons also come in different rarities and can be sold on the black market if you need some quick cash. In the end, to rise to the top, you need to take out your rival gangs, protect your turf, and keep your rackets and safe house from getting ransacked. Go on the offensive and take over enemy rackets by attacking them, or get the drop on enemy squads by ambushing them, anytime, any place. They won't know what hit them.
So what's next?
Well, we're going to take a look at an important part of being a boss in Empire of Sin, and that is the gangsters that you hire onto your crew and your relationship to them.
All right, let's take a look at the RPG aspect of Empire of Sin.
In Empire of Sin, you play as one of 14 bosses, a mix of some of the most infamous historical figures from the Roaring '20s.
Alphonse Capone, nice to meet you.
And several other unique personalities crafted specifically for the game.
Hey, how you doing?
You set out to build and manage your criminal empire in Chicago's legendary Prohibition era. Each boss has their own particular set of traits, skills, backgrounds, and methods of getting their way. From Dino Banyan's shotgun diplomacy to the slick savoir-faire of singer-turned-gangster Goldie Garneau. Along for the ride, and available to hire, are 55 of Chicago's most brazen gangsters. Gangsters range in skill from top-notch executioners to wayward criminals.
Hi.
They have diverse backgrounds and work in one of 5 professions: doctors, hired guns, enforcers, con artists, and demolitionists, each with their own talent tree. As a boss, you build up your crew and your stats as you gain notoriety. The more notorious you become, the more deadly your choices for crew. Like any crew, your gangsters develop opinions about one another, They can fall in love, become friends, or turn to bitter enemies.
Hey, what's up?
How you handle these dilemmas very much shape how you evolve as a boss. Some of your crew come with their own baggage that you need to handle, or you risk losing their loyalty and their services. Gangsters have morale and loyalty, and improve over time, learning new talents and taking on new roles like becoming maid. Pick your best made men to become lieutenants, or even your underboss or advisor. There are a multitude of story-rich tasks to complete, including an elaborate and extensive custom mission for your chosen boss. Of course, you're not the only one with big plans. The other bosses have a mark on you. The diplomatic decisions that you make have meaningful and sometimes even game-altering repercussions. Manage your relationships with other bosses through tense one-on-one meetings called sit-downs. Forge alliances, make truces, demand retribution, and don't forget what you came here for. There can only be one king or queen of Chicago. How you get there is up to you.
So that gave you a good look at the RPG aspect of Empire of Sin. Who's your favorite gangster, by the way?
The cleaner.
Okay, I really like Maria. Maria is in she rolls out with me every single time.
Her hair trigger is amazing.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Okay, so next we're going to take a look at another aspect of the game. And as you know, we're making the game with Paradox Interactive, so you can probably guess what that aspect is going to be. Got an idea?
Shooters type stuff, adventuring.
Adventure games?
Logic puzzles.
How about strategy?
Oh yeah, strategy.
Paradox is kind of known for strategy games. So the strategy layer of Empire of Sin is critically important to the game. You are managing an empire while people are trying to kill you. You got to find out all kinds of ways to optimize as your crew, with all the RPG aspects, as your crew is having all their things going on. So it is a really interesting and challenging space. So let's take a look at that aspect of the game now.
An essential part of running any successful empire, even a criminal one, is strategic management. Build your empire of sin and run Chicago's underworld economy with your preferred mix of subtle business acumen, not so subtle brutality, and citywide notoriety. Strategically manage your rackets, including speakeasies, brothels, casinos, hotels, and more. When you begin, you have but a single racket and brewery to your name, but it's a good start from which you can build. After all, prohibition relies on a healthy supply of illegal hooch. Each brewery can support a number of rackets, so you have some runway in front of you. Will you take the easy road and purchase rackets that are up for sale? Will you seek out some minor factions, eliminate them, and take what's theirs? Each boss has their own racket bonuses as well, and these factor into the equation. As boss, you can upgrade your existing businesses, improve security to keep your enemies out, focus on ambience to improve your client's average spend, or upgrade word of mouth to draw more people in. Breweries can also be upgraded to produce better quality hooch and greater quantities of the same. As your empire starts to grow, you gain control of entire neighborhoods. Appoint a lieutenant to watch over things and extend some of their bonuses to those nearby. As time passes, prosperity in the neighborhood will increase, leading its citizens to demand particular types of drink, which, if you're able to meet the demand, results in financial bonuses for you. Of course, if you see rivals doing well, there's nothing like a good old-fashioned turf war to lower prosperity and send the citizens scrambling. Exceptional bosses also make use of business synergies. For example, getting a few like businesses near one another has a positive impact on all, and there are multiple synergies available. Supercharge your synergies by opening a hotel to provide even more clientele and amp your earnings higher. Remember that the more attention and money your rackets are getting from customers, the more likely they are to be noticed by the police, prohibition agents, and rival bosses. So, you can upgrade security, which ain't cheap. Upgrade your deflection, or try bribing the authorities to keep your doors open for business. Seek out other bosses and forge anti-aggression treaties or join one another in a war pact to take a rival out. Eventually, as you grow in power, you can move your crew out into new neighborhoods, staking a bigger claim on the city. There are 10 neighborhoods in total, based on some of Chicago's most iconic locations, including Little Italy, Chinatown, and many more. There isn't one right way to grow your empire. Run and gun, or be cautious and diplomatic. Send in moles to do your dirty work. Play to the strengths of your boss. Make alliances, and when the time is right, break them.
We hope that you're as excited as we are for the launch of Empire of Sin on December 1st, 2020.
Absolutely. I cannot wait for this game to be out there. It's been a long time and we're thrilled everybody is so excited for it. You can pre-order now, in fact, on PS4, Xbox, Switch, PC. And if you do, you get some exclusive items and an in-game mission. So be sure to do that. Thanks for the support. Thanks, RazerCon. We absolutely enjoyed this. Bye.
See you later.
Welcome back, everybody, to RazerCon. We are jumping in here. I'm Supersonic. We're going to be jumping in with John and Brenda Romero from Romero Games. How you guys doing today?
Good.
Yeah,
Good. How are
great.
you?
Doing all right. I'm getting to hang out in the store, cover all this great content. We just got to watch the preview for Empire of Sin. Really looking forward to this one. A lot of cool things there that I can see. I can see that there's a lot of different influences on this game and different genres that you can you guys have pulled from. Can you guys maybe give me a little bit on where you guys drew some inspiration for this game from?
Sure. I mean, I think some of the inspirations are pretty obvious. You know, the combat is reminiscent of XCOM, which we love. I would say it's also heavily influenced by Paradox's strategy games. And even going back to the Civilization series. The executions have an influence as well, the execution maneuvers.
There's some blood.
Yeah, there's some blood. Those are pretty grisly, and I can't imagine where that influence came from.
Yeah, I mean, for me, where it gets into some of the turn-based, I think, is where yeah, the RPG. So that's actually what I was saying from it when I was watching and I saw some of the turn-based stuff. That got me kind of excited. I'm a big like D&D tabletop kind of guy. So getting to see that aspect come in is something that I'm really looking forward to. I love those turn-based kind of strategy type fights. So how do you balance all of that though? Because there's a lot of different genres and different pieces you pulled from. What's the process like to make that all work cohesively?
I would say like a heavy dose of hope and luck, and then a really skilled team. And we started testing. We started doing focus tests on the game really early. You know, getting feedback from players when the game was, less than a year old, even. You know, it just in terms of its full development. But yeah, it's a team that's really behind this game, and we wanted to make something that we wanted to play but couldn't find anywhere else, and so that's how Empire of Sin really came to be.
Yeah, there's a lot of different stats. There's a lot of different talents, and different flags on the characters that change. That they have different backgrounds or traits. So a lot of RPG stuff, but those things do turn out to be stat influences. And
they grow over time too. I guess it's interesting you mentioned D&D because John and I both
totally
started
from D&D.
Yeah, John and I both started with D&D, back in the last century, and absolutely that is a huge influence on this, like it is on everything we've worked on.
Yeah, I don't know if there's really a lot of stuff out there within the RPG world that isn't somehow influenced by D&D at this point. I mean, that's something I'm just kind of obsessed with. I have a weekly group that we've been playing, the same module for the past 2 years on. So, ton of fun on that one. So you mentioned there for a second that you brought people in very early. in the game development cycle. And that's something that I've kind of noticed with some game developers, and that kind of being a newer trend where games used to be very much like kind of last minute, okay, here's a beta, we hope everything's good, and now we'll go forward, or you'll have an alpha, a closed alpha. What's it like? What's the reason for you, or why do you guys like having people brought in that early? What's the benefit?
QA is part of the development process from day one. It's really important as soon as you start building your team and writing code that it's tested constantly, and that the testers can give you feedback on what they think is working and not working.
Yeah.
And then you start growing the QA team over time. As the game gets more complex, you need more coverage. As soon as you get consoles working, you need even more people to handle those different versions of the game. So at the end of it, you have a lot of QA happening, and we also do user research as well. So
It's critical.
yeah, it's critical. We do user research with other companies where they target players who are the demographic we're looking for, and then they play it purely to make sure it's fun, or to just give it, just experience the game and then just give feedback. And that's a different kind of actionable feedback versus the QA, which is like, we found this thing is there's something wrong here, can you tweak this? So we basically get feedback everywhere that we can to make the game better. And in this game's entire development has been influenced by everybody that has been playing it and giving us their response to what they like or what they need, what they'd like to see or what's wrong. And
I think as a designer, fundamentally, you think you've got an idea for something in your head, but what's fun for me might not necessarily be fun for somebody else, or they might not understand it the same way that I understand it. So the quicker you can get that game out there and find the fun, find out the cool things in it, find things that aren't registering quite the way that you hope that they would, the better chance you have to fix them. So the second the game is up and walking and on its legs, I want somebody to be looking at it and giving feedback.
so this game has been played thoroughly by so many people before it's launched.
Yeah, I have to say Paradox has been fantastic with that. They've given us access to all the user research, all the testing that we want. It's been great.
That's awesome. Having the support, obviously, from Paradox, going to be a big thing. Looking through the game, and you're just saying, the Q&A sometimes is targeted. You're looking for the normal user, normal player. What's the player you think that this is the game for? Because it does kind of cross genres there in quite a few spots. I mean, I could spot 3 or 4. Who is the target? Because to me, it feels like it could be just about anyone. You can do the free shooting, or you could do turn-based. Then you've got the strategy, the empire building. How do you even? Do you guys just throw a giant net and not a direct target?
When it wasn't intentional. This is a game that, it's something, and we've talked before, this is a game I've been working on, wanting to make for 20 years. And I guess throughout that 20 years, I've been adding things on to that and figuring out, how they might all go together. So yeah, it definitely, there's a lot there. You can focus on the RPG aspect and get a great crew together and, really be like an amazing, super powerful boss. And, these characters have their own missions. The gangsters do, as well as the bosses. Or you can just focus on the layer that Paradox is very known for, which is strategy. But all of these things absolutely work together. They work together in D&D. They work together in games like Civilization and Age of Empires. They work together in other RPGs. And there's certainly, anybody who's played Crusader Kings 3 would know, there's a lot of story. There's a lot of attachment stuff that are things to attach the player going on there. So yeah, I guess there's a lot here. Sometimes in the really early days of Empire of Sin, when it was just an idea, I often had, it would be like, all right, so I'm going to explain this game and it's many different pieces put together, but it works. And it did, and I mean, that's the credit to Paradox and a credit to the team.
There's a lot of work just getting the balance right from the different systems that are from other genres and making them all work together. It's called a system soup, where there's just a ton of different systems working together. And what we need to do is make sure that they all balance right and that feels really good. And it doesn't feel like someone is just gravitating towards one of the systems and only playing that. but they all feed into each other and they all complement each other.
Yeah, I guess I wanted a game that I wanted to play this game and it didn't exist. So we made it.
I think that's probably the best way to start something and get something going, right? If you can't find it, make it yourself. That's probably the right play. I could definitely imagine. I was sitting there trying to imagine as you were talking about like all the different systems and going in and how supported Paradox has been and bringing the idea to them and everything. It's like I've seen some game pitches. I've worked in community management before, so I've worked in the back and got to see some of it. That pitch has got to be nuts. It's like, okay, brace yourselves. We got a little bit we're going to have to get through, but trust me, it all works. I can just imagine that was probably a really fun meeting trying to convey that all across, and it's just like, trust me, here, we'll show you. It works. I promise it does. So obviously, the game started as one thing. It's grown. It's where it's at. Is there anything else you guys are looking to add? Is there even any other genres or things you can add to this game? What's the future look like, in your opinion, for Empire of Sin?
I'm only laughing at you because out there are at least there's 2 producers in our studio, and then there's producers on Paradox side who are like, oh, Brenda, please don't say. I mean, as a game director, there's at least 20 things at any given time that I want to still get into the game. But at some point in time, you have to say, this is what we're going with, and this is the thing that we want to ship. So, of course, as with any game, there's always going to be 20 other things that you wish you could do. And so, we'll see. We'll see. But there's a lot in there already. I certainly don't feel like we left anything on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, so I mean, eventually after you keep trying to add ideas, eventually the JIRA ticket list just gets a little long and too much to handle. You got to make the cut somewhere at some point. The JIRA tickets start adding up, and that producer that's sitting there trying to manage them starts losing his mind. So I'm sure that they're probably one of those ones that's always like, please no more ideas, please no more ideas, please no more ideas. But on the other side of this, there is something in the gaming world that alleviates that sometimes, and I'm curious what your guys' stance on it. I'm always curious. I'm somebody that really likes seeing community-driven content here and there. Do you guys have any plans possibly for modding it all on it?
We'll see. We'll see. I mean, I think if you look at other Paradox games, that is a important component. But I can't say too much about modding just at this second.
That has me thinking, and I'll end that with a but that's it's definitely cool. I think it's a great area that sometimes you can have an idea and then the community just kind of runs with it for you, and you get some cool stuff out of that. So the side for me, I guess, is you got to have a favorite combat or a favorite style of game. You guys have obviously blended a bunch together. If you had to pick out one section of the game that really kind of speaks true to you and like that's your style, even if it's a character or something, what is like the specific for each one of you? I'm just interested to see where the big passion is. The game obviously is the passion, but where's the individual one? Where's the individuality from the two of you in the game?
Well, I did all the audio in the game, so everything that you're hearing. I put that all together, working with a team of composers,
an audio guy,
some sound effect engineers. To make sure that everything has really good sound, and that it feels like it's the 1920s, and that all the violent stuff actually sounds violent as well.
I would say, and I think too. I mean, like this game, it's been in my head for a long time. So, John has also served as a design sounding board for a great many years. But I guess, it is the game that I've wanted to make. Like the area that I absolutely love is probably just the bosses and the gangsters and the stories behind them. Frankie Donovan is based on my great-grandfather, John's grandmother, grandmother and great-grandmother are in the game. So, I really love the rich story that we got in there, I guess the RPG aspect, maybe having spent so many years in RPGs, I really love that. But then, sometimes I'm playing and I have just like this, I'm just trying to maximize all these things in the Empire game and not paying so much attention to that. It depends. It depends on what game I feel like playing on that particular day. because you can really run with the RPG aspect of it, or you can really focus on the strategy aspect, or you can do a mix of both. That'll result in a longer game, but ultimately, if that's what you want, it's also more satisfying.
Yeah, the game length can be crazy long, or it can be a lot shorter than that, because you can choose just to go against one other boss in the neighborhood.
Or it can be really short if you try to take over somebody's safe house before you're ready.
Yeah.
I had a game like that the other day.
Yeah, you'll end it real quick if
Yeah.
you just try and fight a boss with all the henchmen in there.
Yeah, a 20-minute game.
All the gangsters and all the bosses have their own VO, so they all have their personalities, which is really great.
Yeah.
You hear them all talking.
That all sounds awesome. One, I'm a guy that comes from an audio background, so I got a little excited there when you said that you're the audio guy. I love that stuff. I will have to talk to you at some point about things. We have to link up. And you kind of went into what I wanted to talk about there, kind of towards the end. Kind of here a minute roughly. Break it down. What's the replayability like on this game? Because to me, it seems like there's going to be a lot of it, just due to the fact that you could do different gangsters and different storylines.
Well, there's 14 different bosses, so you can play as one of 14 different bosses, and then there's 60 different gangsters.
10 neighborhoods
in the game. 10 different neighborhoods. You can play a long game with all the bosses, all the neighborhoods, or a short game. You could have 3 neighborhoods in all the bosses, or fewer bosses if you wanted. But the variety and the variety is pretty incredible. Because if you go into a game, you don't know which other bosses you're going to encounter. When you have your initial sit downs, you might exchange bonuses, like you do this for me, I'll do that for you. And since so much of that is random, like who's going to show up, the location of the businesses, and even the relationships between the different gangsters, all of that's dynamic based on how much time they spend together and the things that they encounter, the traits that they get. I mean, it's
different bosses have different personalities and strategies.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculously replayable.
It was made to be a massively replayable game, like an Age of Empires style game.
Yeah, we put a lot into it, so I don't know that I'd want to go through all of that just to play it once.
Yeah.
Dude, sounds awesome. It really does. It sounds like there's going to be a ton of replayability out of this game. It's something I'm going to want to get my hands on. It's got a whole bunch of different genres that I love playing through. I just want to say thank you to John and Brenda for coming on, talking with us about this game. It has been a ton of fun getting to talk with you guys so much. RazerCon, though, we're going to be coming back here very shortly with a bit more. Coming up next, though, we have a surprise coming from CD Projekt Red. Not going to want to miss it.